What's up, everybody? Today we are going to be talking a little bit about the World Cup. Also, just celebrating, taking a few minutes to celebrate America and kind of connected, kind of intertwined. But I've been trying to keep up with the soccer matches. I'm not a huge fan of soccer. I don't keep up with it. I don't watch the Premier League. I don't watch any overseas leagues. I don't even keep up with the MLS or anything like that. But hey, I mean, it's the United States. Got to show up. Got to support the country. And the fact that it's in North America as well is also something that makes it really interesting. And so there's just been a lot of cool videos, not just the game, not just the games, but also the all the people coming from all the different parts of the world here to celebrate soccer, to celebrate their cultures, and to celebrate American culture as well. And so some of that we'll talk about at the back end of this video. But before we get into, I kept track of all of the substantial performances, very cool plays or goals, or just to go over it because I've been watching all the highlights and trying to keep up with the games and the matches. And so just to go through some of the cool stuff that's happened in the tournament. But first, I want to talk about just a couple things that I don't like. And this is not necessarily specific to the World Cup, but just to soccer in general. And the first part that I really don't like is the flopping. Now, I was talking to one of my friends a couple weeks ago, and I told him that it turns out that flopping is a universal language. Every single team, almost every single player, different parts of the world, every single country, they all do it. And every time somebody makes contact with another player, you're kind of looking on the field and you're like, "Oh, is that James Harden? Is that James Harden flopping on the field?" Because that's what it looks like. That's essentially what it is just this foul baiting. But even more than that, the penalties are very harsh. You get one penalty, it's yellow card, two penalties, red card, and then you're out for the next. You're out for the entirety of the game that you are playing. The rest of the game you're playing, you're out, and then the next game you're out. And so it's very costly. So it's almost like it incentivizes the flopping. And so every time somebody touches you, you're just going to act like you're writhing in pain on the ground when that's not actually the case because you're just trying to punish the other team. It's not because you're actually hurt. And look, I get it. I played soccer in high school. People step on you, people kick you, and you get hurt. You have collisions with other players, but it's sometimes it's kind of hard to tell what's really going on, and a lot of them are just trying to bait the referee into giving the other team a penalty. And so, not a huge fan of that. It's in every single game, and it wastes a lot of time. But I guess it is what it is. The second thing I don't like is that I think the corner kicks are. It's almost like they are a bailout, almost like there's so many people. There's so many people in the box area that it's nothing but mayhem. It's total mayhem, and it doesn't. I don't think it's a good watch when they're just kicking corner kicks over and over and over again until they finally score. It's like, well, yeah, something was bound to happen because they keep on taking these very, I don't know if statistically high. I don't know the statistics on it, but just in terms of watching it, it's not that interesting. It's not nearly as interesting as watching players in the open field maneuver around opponents and pull off these crazy, insane shots from 20 yards away, 30 yards away, and they just bend the ball into the net. That's far more interesting and far more impressive than just a bunch of people huddled together, all jostling for position, and then somebody just happens to get a leg on it, a knee on it, and it bounces off three people and then goes into the net. And there also the announcing sometimes frustrates me and makes me angry because I understand that it's soccer. I understand that it's hard to score a goal. And every time somebody scores a goal, you have to go crazy. I understand that's part of the game, that's part of the culture. But at the same time, you're listening to the announcers and they're just going, wow, what an incredible goal. What an amazing effort by this one player. And then you watch the replay in slow motion. I'm like, okay, yeah, he might have kicked it, but it bounced off of like three people and somehow, some way found its way into the net. Like, we don't have to over exaggerate here. You don't have to say that every single goal is like this amazing thing. Sometimes it's just luck. Sometimes it just ricochets off of 5 people and goes in. It's not necessarily impressive, it's just lucky. I mean, they all count for the same amount of points, but we don't need to over exaggerate what's going on here. And then the last thing is the penalty kicks are way too easy. They're way too easy. They should take the ball and they should place it on the outside of the box, the line that outlines where the goalie can operate with his hands. They should set it all the way back there and then let him kick it because it's just too instant. It's too easy. And not only that, I don't like the fact that if so and so, some random player gets fouled in the box, they can put any other player that they want in his place to take the penalty kick. I don't like that. So every time somebody gets fouled on team Argentina, for example, they what do? Well, they throw Messi in there. Throw Messi. He's got, I think it said he's got like a 75 to 80% conversion rate on penalty kicks. It's like, yeah, okay. Imagine if in the NBA, every time somebody got fouled, every time Draymond Green got fouled, you sent Steph Curry to the free throw line. That's how instant it is. It wouldn't be very interesting because that's not really a team game at that point. And I was like, okay, well, it's Steph again. They got fouled for the 20th time, Mr. 98% free throw shooter over here. What do we think is going to happen? It's not very interesting. I think that the player that gets fouled should be the one that has to take the penalty kick. The player that is the player that gets fouled is the one that gets to take the penalty kick in regular time. Now, you have to create a lineup in the penalty shootout, and I understand that. That's fine. But I'm just saying it's too easy. Oh, he got fouled. Okay, we'll just throw Messi in there. Just throw Ronaldo in there. Just throw Mbappe in there. No, the person who gets fouled needs to be the one that's taking the penalty kick. It's a team sport. You're the one that gets fouled. You're the one that has to make the most of it. Pressure's on you. You don't get to place the pressure on another player. And so those are just some basic observations and criticisms. And it's not really anything specific about the World Cup. It's just about soccer in general. But some really cool I went through and I've watched pretty much the highlights of all the matches. And so I've written down substantial performances, great performances by individual players, and some really cool goals. And so that way, if you have missed a lot of the more interesting parts of the tournament, you can actually go back and you can look these up. So I've got Belgium. They brought this guy in. His last name is Lukaku, and they put him on a minutes restriction. I'm assuming because he was injured at one point, so he wasn't even playing the full minutes, and so they put him in as like a pinch hitter. They bring him in because they couldn't score, and he literally scores in 30 seconds, and that was Belgium versus Egypt. Messi scored a hat trick. I think it was in the first or second game of the divisional play. He scored a hat trick. Daniel Munoz one touch goal. Uh, I think somebody passed him the ball. He didn't even let the ball bounce, and he scores. Jonathan David for Canada got a hat trick versus Qatar. Edson Alvarez for Mexico, bicycle clearance versus South Korea. The ball was literally going to go in. It was hovering over the line, and he kicked it out of the way. Saudi Arabia goalkeeper Alois played a really good game versus Uruguay. It ended in a tie 1-1, but I think he ended up with 15 or 16 saves, which is really, really impressive for a goalkeeper in that situation. Uh, Douan assist versus Tunisia, a one-touch assist. Carousel Room goalie 15 saves versus Ecuador. Let me see. I'm probably going to butcher some of these names. Birunvand, the Iranian goalkeeper, great game versus Belgium, made a save while lying on the ground. I think that he made the initial save and the ball rebounded to another player who also tried to score, but he was literally lying on the ground and saved the ball. We've got Messi breaks the World Cup goal record. Isidore for Haiti, long shot goal versus Morocco. And this is what I'm saying about the whole anti corner kick thing, you have that many people jostling for position and random things just happen. It's not nearly as impressive. You have these guys that they are maneuvering around 3 or 4 different players, and then they just bend the ball into the net from 20 yards away, 30 yards away, from outside the box area. And so to me, that's more of like pure soccer that is far more impressive. And so all the long shots, I'm sure you could go on YouTube and just find a bunch of long shots from this year's World Cup. France's Dembele hat trick versus Norway, Mbappe trajectory. He is he already has 18 all-time World Cup goals. And so I'm not sure how old he is. I'm pretty sure he's younger than me, but he is on a trajectory to at least for the goals, he's going to break that record fairly easily. DR Congo plays a good game versus England, but Harry Kane carries. Harry Kane scores 2 goals for England. It's the only 2 goals that they scored. Puts the team on his back for the win. Belgium beats Senegal on comeback plus questionable penalty review, penalty kick. This happened, I think, at the very end, if I remember correctly, at the very end of extra time. They called this, I would say, nitpicky penalty. And so they get like this last second penalty attempt, which they capitalize on and end up winning. That kind of sucked. I think they should have just played it out and ended up going to the penalties, but it is what it is. Cabral goal versus Cabral goal for Cape Verde in extra time versus Argentina. Phenomenal goal. And I'm not over exaggerating that like some of the announcers do. And so those are the most substantial performances that I have seen. Some of the coolest goals that I have seen and good performances from the goalies. We'll see what happens with the rest of the tournament. But it's been a really cool experience. And I was complaining because they didn't put any games in the Midwest. I'm like, why don't they have any games in Indiana? I'll try not to be too offended by that. But it's just been really cool to see people all over the world coming to the United States, coming to Mexico and to Canada. But most of the games have taken place multiple venues in the United States. And one thing that was really cool, and that's really been the I would say the secondary part of the story, but it's a part of the story that's also gotten a lot of attention, is just people here sharing their cultures, which is really, really cool. Like, for example, I love Scotland, like the Scots. I was hearing stories of the people from Scotland, they're going to bars and they were drinking all the beer, like they had no beer left. And then you see videos of them marching through the streets of Boston with kilts on, playing the bagpipes, playing the Scottish anthem on the bagpipes. Just really cool. Really cool to see a lot of people sharing their culture. It's been really well received. What also has been well received. I I love people from Japan because they stay behind and they clean up the stadium afterwards. Like that's very respectful. Like and there's Japan is and Japanese citizens are known for stuff like this. Like the Japanese sports teams, not just the soccer teams, like anytime they go to a visiting country, anytime they leave the locker room, like everything's folded, everything's neat. They are very respectful, and I appreciate that. And I was watching a video, and they were staying behind to clean up trash after the match, and they said they were doing it out of gratitude and respect for the hosting country. And so that was really nice, and a bunch of different stories like that. And one thing that I wanted to highlight was there has been a lot of positivity about the United States, not coming from American citizens, but coming from people that are from other countries. And they're just amazed. They're amazed at the food. They're amazed at the freedom. Like you literally drive anywhere, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But you have people that typically they're going to a gun range and they walk in the door and they just see a wall of firearms and they can literally shoot whatever they want. And like that, and they're like, this is cool, and it is cool. It's pretty freaking cool. And and I was talking about this about a week ago, and I said, not on the podcast, but just to some people that I know, and I said that it's kind of sad that we have to relearn how to be grateful from people that don't live here. And I'm glad they're having a great time, but they seem to have more gratitude for what America is able to do and what America is able to produce than a lot of Americans do. And so people coming from all over the world, different countries, countries that are not as well off as us, people that are not as fortunate as us, they walk into Walmart. What is the first thing that you see in almost every single Walmart? Well, you just see the mountains of produce, fresh vegetables and fruit just stacked on top of each other, just mountains of it. And that is something that we get to enjoy. That's a privilege that we get to enjoy on a regular basis. But some of these people, they have never seen anything like that. The availability, it just blows people's minds. And and there's a lot of instances like that where people just don't even us as Americans, we don't even perceive how fortunate we are and how many things that we have access to. The simplest of things, like being able to drive wherever you want. And what people were figuring out, people that were coming from other countries, what they were figuring out was just how big the United States is. Because they're kind of thinking they live in these tiny European countries, and some of our states are bigger than their entire country. And so when you go out, and I have a family member, he married a woman from Germany. He lives in Germany, and they would tell stories like, yeah, you just kind of walk. You don't really drive. Everything is so close together. Like you just walk, and sometimes you even have to carry your passport because you don't know when you're going to have to go. You don't know when you're going to have to go into another country. I don't really know how it works. I don't know how easy it is to get into a different country, but I'm saying like you could easily find yourself on the border of your own country, bordering another country, and just like walk into it. And so if people just don't understand how big the United States is. It's like, oh well, there's nothing to do. Well, there's nothing to do in the United States. It's like, yeah, it's like there's you've been to one state, been to one, and you could probably spend the rest of your life traveling the United States and seeing things that you've never seen before. And so people just can't wrap their minds around it. And another thing is in some of these countries, what you have to realize is that people rely heavily on public transportation. In fact, I was seeing stuff on social media where they're actually roasting the United States because of how underdeveloped our railroad system is. And so they were kind of mapping it out, and you have like a few main railroad. It might not have been totally accurate, but you look at some of these European countries, it's very heavy. The railroad usage in some of those countries is very, very heavy. People can't conceptualize the fact that we just drive everywhere. We drive anywhere we want. We can go literally anywhere we want in the entire country. And people seem very impressed by that. And you had other people from other countries saying that this was the best country ever, and like this is the greatest country in the world, and it is true, and it's true. And again, it's kind of sad that it takes people who are in less fortunate positions to come here to this country to remind us about how good we really have it, and even the stuff that we get to take advantage of on a daily basis. Even something as simple as going in your car. I mean, we're getting ready to take a trip here before too long, and we just go. Like you don't even really have to plan if you didn't want to. You just go take a trip. You drive wherever, literally wherever, and that's a tremendous privilege. And a couple years ago, we went to Colorado for vacation. We vacationed very close to one of the state parks. We were 5 minutes away from the entrance of the state park, so we did some hiking. But we also stopped at Mount Rushmore as well and the Crazy Horse exhibit there. And I usually advocate to drive. That's usually my first instinct is to drive because in my mind, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's like, oh, well, we're going to pay for a plane ticket. We're going to spend hundreds of dollars on a plane ticket to go there and back, which once we get there, we're just going to have to rent a car anyway. So we might as well just rent a car drive it down there and spend the money that we would have otherwise spent on plane tickets on the vacation, like to actually do stuff. And so that's just the way I think about it. That makes the most sense to me. But also, I just wanted to see the country. Up until that point, the furthest west I had been was Missouri. And I understand that driving through Kansas, just a straight shot through Kansas, is kind of a drag, but it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. The variety of landscapes, like mountains and valleys and desert, and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how beautiful this country is, and how easily you can. Um, I was thinking about it when we were driving down there. I felt really grateful because the infrastructure, the infrastructure that's available, where you have paved roads that will literally take you anywhere you want to go. And not only that, I realized that it is very, very, very hard to run out of gas in the United States. I mean, you would have to be kind of a dummy to run out of gas in the United States. And I say that jokingly. Like I understand things happen, but I'm just saying, like, you even in the middle of you're driving through Kansas, you're driving in the middle of nowhere, and you look over, oh, there's a gas station. Yeah, you can still get some snacks, you still get some water, you can still get gas, and the infrastructure to sustain all of that, and the fact that we as just everyday people have access to that is incredible. It's incredible, and we've been fortunate enough. We've been fortunate enough to do some traveling. And we've been to New York, we've been to Florida, we've been to Colorado. I'd like to get a little bit further out west eventually someday, but we've been to Maine. We just went to Maine last year, and it's the variety, and there's so many different things to do and so many places that you could go. And I think that again we've kind of taken it for granted. And so as we celebrate 250 years of America, that's all part of it. That's all part of it. And yes, it's a good time to reflect on the history of our country, the story of our independence, but it's also just good to reflect on the things that you've experienced in your own life as an American citizen, and just try and reestablish some gratitude for those normal everyday things. And it was really cool to see other people from other countries get to partake in that. Because I think that there's a lot of America, I think probably does get somewhat of a bad rap because we are very polarizing. Like our politics is it's a mess. It's enough to make your head explode. And so I think from somebody that's on the outside looking in, that's kind of what they see is a very polarizing political atmosphere, and a culture that kind of seems torn a little bit, like going, conservative, liberal, whichever different direction. And so there seems to be a lot of friction in our country. But when you're here and you just get to partake of the daily things, you're like, man, like people are like, well, this is not what we thought it was going to be. It's actually really cool. The people are actually really cool, and all these places are really cool. And so, very very grateful. Just a reminder to be very grateful. And I do think that gratitude is one of the I, I don't know if blessing is the right thing, but I do think it is a blessing to be grateful because being an ungrateful person, I think there's a lot of other things that come along with that. Being greedy, being jealous, being envious, those things can just take over your life. And so if there's never a moment of gratitude, and I think that this is a real problem in in our country today amongst us as American citizens, is that there seems to be just a substantial lack of gratitude. I understand we have problems. I understand the history of America isn't perfect. I understand that we're still trying to work some things out, but the lack of gratitude for the things that we have gotten right, the lack of gratitude for the things that we've gotten right, I think is I think is a real problem. And so you have all of these people that are trying to solve the problems that we have, which is fine. They have, like, sure, that's what we should do, but they're always coming at it from the standpoint of being ungrateful. Like, there's just not a sliver or an ounce of gratitude and recognition of what America is compared to not only a lot of other countries in the modern world today, countries that exist today, but where we stand in terms of history. Where we stand above and beyond just having the freedom and independence that we have, above and beyond every other nation, and not only that, of the modern day, but also of history as well. And so I think just a basic acknowledgement of that would help us maneuver through some of those problems in a more productive way. And so it's just really cool to see all of these things converge at once. So you have the Cup, you have this global event, you have people pouring into North America, pouring into America, sharing their culture, sharing their stories. All of these cool things happening at once. You have Fourth of July happening today. I was laughing because I would see posts of people saying that the foreigners that are here visiting, they're getting ready to be exposed to something that they have never seen before. They're literally here on the 250th anniversary of the United States, and they're going to wake up in the middle of the night and be like, are we being invaded? Is America being invaded? It's like, no, that's just a random person down the road lighting fireworks all night because that's just what we do. Because that's just part of our culture. That's part of how we celebrate our country. And so it's a bit of a rude awakening for people that aren't used to that. And so again, very grateful for this country, very grateful for all of the cool stories that have came from the World Cup. And I hope that everybody has had a wonderful holiday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the time you get to spend with friends and family. Enjoy the rest of the World Cup. I certainly will be watching. I am interested to see what's going to happen. There's one guy that got a red card. I don't remember his name. He got a red card for the United States. He's been playing very well. So I don't really know. I'm not an expert again on soccer. I don't follow the U.S. men's team outside of the World Cup, but I will say this: just something that I've noticed about the U.S. men's team. They seem to be collectively, like overall, they seem to be a good team, but I don't know if they definitively have that one player that can just carry the team. And it's kind of hard to imagine when you have so many players on the field. You have so many players on the field that what is it, 11 on each team? So you have 22 players. It's hard to imagine a singular player dominating the game, but we've seen it. Went through those list of performances, and then of course Messi, so he scored a hat trick, and then Harry Kane carrying England with those two goals. I and then Mbappe has also played very well. I don't know if the United States has that kind of player. Like collectively, they might have a talented team, but do they have that one guy? It's kind of like LeBron, it's like Steph. Sure, we've got a good team and we've done what we can to place players together that are cohesive. Like you want to have a cohesive unit, but sometimes you just need Steph to be Steph. Sometimes you just need what was it? Sometimes you just need game 4 Steph Curry against the Boston Celtics. Sometimes you just need game 7 LeBron and Kyrie against the Warriors in 2016. Sometimes you just need those guys. Like sometimes it's just not going to work if you don't have that individual player. And so I'm not sure if the United States has that. And if they do, they might have lost him to that red card. So he's not even going to be able to play tomorrow, but or play on Monday. But we'll see what happens.